Hello, everyone. And everyone hear me okay? Good. I love having a microphone because I have kind of a quiet voice, and now you can just hear me even though I'm not yelling, so that's fun. And so I hope that you'll play along with me tonight. Tonight, we are going to talk through becoming a parenting team. So, why would we talk about becoming a parenting team? Is anyone here married? Has anyone ever had a disagreement about parenting, even one time? Yes, I've been married for 28 years, and we have 3 kids, ages 26, 23, and 17, one more at home. And our youngest is adopted, which is how I got into this whole world. And we've had plenty of conflicts. So as I was working on my curriculum as a parenting coach, I decided to make a course, Becoming a Parenting Team, because it's a thing, right? Being a team, day to day, there are a jillion decisions to make about parenting. And at the same time, our kids are trying to work the system hard, right? So it's hard enough to agree in the first place, and then you also have them trying to divide and conquer because they want their way, of course. So we did the same to our parents, always trying to get a yes. And then for others of us, we're not married, but you may be in a partnership relationship with somebody else that's parenting. Maybe you're working on coaching birth mom. Maybe you are in a divorce situation and your child is going back and forth and you're a 2-home family. There are still elements to being a team. So is anyone here a step parent in the room? Yes, so you know how it is when you are still on that parenting team, even if there are 3 and 4 people on that parenting team, if the child is with different adults, you still are all working together, even if it's messy. So it's still all part of influence. So the course that we're talking about is Becoming a Parenting Team. There's a whole workbook with exercises to work through step by step to help you get more on the same page. So tonight we're actually going to be doing module 3. There are only 3 modules in it. So we're going to just dive right into the part that gets really good and coming together to make a one-page family vision. So as we wrap up our evening tonight, you'll get to have one of these. It doesn't matter if you're single or married. You can make this one-page family vision for your home. So we'll work toward that tonight. So some of you may have a relatively easy time agreeing and doing that together. And for some of you, it might be really hard to go through some different layers we talk about to do that. And there are lots of exercises in the workbook for that. So, and also, if you're interested at the end of the evening in hearing the first 2 parts of this series, this is normally a package that I sell to clients, but because I love foster and adoptive families so much, if you drop me a line and let me know that you would like to listen to the rest, I will let you download it for free, and I will give you access to it. So if you want to ride further on this journey, I welcome you to hop on. There are brochures and business cards there. You can reach out to me that way. I'm also going to pass this around just as we're going through the evening if you want to sign up for my newsletter and if you'd like the workbook to download. I would have loved to have brought all the pages, but that would have been a lot of paper for all of you. So you'll have to print it yourselves. So diving in this course, the first module is about your personal identity, your personal attachment style, and understanding yourself more. The second module is about some basic parenting information, like you've probably learned in this room different times. I'm sure you've had a lot of discussions on parenting curriculum, yes? So it's some of that content. Sometimes people like to revisit that. And then right now we're diving into facing the challenge of we. So we want to be on the same page, but sometimes it's hard. I'll have you cue the next slide. So, when we think of just going down the stream together, it's a beautiful day, kayaking along, we're with our spouse, and life just couldn't be better. It's just so sunny, and we're getting along and paddling together. And then what happens? It starts to get a little rocky. Things are moving around. And what happens a lot of times when you're kayaking and you hit rapids and people don't know what they're doing, what do? They start panicking. They start getting out of control, right? How many times have you seen people just all out fall out of the boat? Has anyone seen that? The raft just goes down. So when we get into the rocky rapids, if we aren't shored up and have a plan for how we're going to paddle, it's really easy to get to where we're spinning in the rapids, we're dumping out, and it's just getting to be very difficult. So we're going to talk about how we sync up our paddle. Has anybody here kayaked? Give me a hand if you've kayaked. Kayakers in here. So it goes a lot better when the other person in the boat with you is paddling with you. So what if I'm taking this course alone? You might be here alone tonight, and that's okay. You still may be working with another parent in raising the children in your care, or you may be doing it alone. Either way, it's a great time to just pause and think about your family vision. So what is our shared vision? Does anyone have a family vision statement that they've made already that they like to share? I love you. Make it to the end alive is what she said. I'll say it for the recording because I don't want anyone to miss that. Yes. Yeah, I hear that. Yes. So we're going to come up with a shared vision. What is your vision for your family? You might have think about this in kind of more vague terms, but we're going to kind of synthesize it more tonight. So what do we share? So if you think of each circle as each of you have areas where you have overlap, where you do share similar values, goals, spiritual beliefs, the discipline philosophy, but then you also have areas where you don't overlap, where you don't agree. And this is where we can often see conflict. So relationship tensions to manage. So if you have some really big rocks in your parenting where you don't agree, and say one of you really believes in kind of like a hard knocks mentality, and the other is a really opposite of that and really just wants to coddle to the nth degree. If you're just kind of opposite ends, you're going to have a lot of tension, and you're going to have to find a way to come to the middle, which is a long way from certain areas. Or it might be something a little smaller, like one of you wants to have nothing but like whole foods crossing your child's lips, and the other is like pouring out Oreos and Cheetos all night long on the side. So probably a little bit easier to manage that gap, but sometimes not if you're both really out here and aren't able to manage the tension in that, aren't able to manage and realize like we don't have to die on this hill over these instances. So we're going to think about here the different perspectives. We've got my perspective, your perspective, and a third perspective. So, with the food example, we've got maybe one parent likes to eat only things that are deep fried and hasn't had a vegetable in 5 years, and the other is a total health nut and hasn't had an Oreo ever. So what could be a third perspective? How could the family come to an agreement where there's some balance, where maybe there's a stronger solution, where it doesn't have to be two polarized views, and instead you can come up with a solution that might be better than what either one of you had separately. You can come to the middle more. Like if you disagree on bedtime, one of you thinks, let them run around until they fall where they may on the couch, and the other one wants like a 7 p.m. bedtime. Well, maybe you come together and come on 8:30 and have some structure, but maybe not quite so rigid. So coming up with a third way instead of just either or on your perspectives. So what happens when we get polarized, we get into conflict, we get lost in a tunnel, and we get like tunnel vision? Now we're arguing. Have you noticed that when you get into an argument with your spouse, I'm sure none of you have had an argument anytime recently, but if you can think back to the last time you had an argument, have you realized just how much your brain kind of shuts down? You lose logic and reasoning. You just get into a tunnel, and your creativity, your problem solving really starts to shut down. You get angry, shut off. Maybe one is more of a emoter, yelling, crying. Maybe the other likes to run away or just go close the door, and maybe another just wants to keep coming around and debating it until the nth degree. So everybody has their style, but once you're just in that tunnel, it's really hard to problem solve. So how do you get out? You know, you're both passionate about raising these kids. You're both trying so hard. You both love them, which is why you care. So how do you get out of this spin? So de-escalation, just like we talk about with our kids, helping them to de-escalate, helping them to regulate, we can do that for each other. So taking a break, listening, and using neutral body language. You know, sometimes it's important to think of, am I like talking over, like above, you know, if like my husband's on the couch, I'm not like talking over him, or he's not pointing or something like that. So using neutral body language, non-judgmental, empathetic, and what does that do to the brain? Does anybody know what that does to the brain when you start to use these de-escalation methods? Does it bring it more intense or calm it down? Thumbs down, calming it down. Do we agree on a thumbs down? We're right. It's going to calm it down. Once you're both calm, then we can talk about some problem solving again. Then we can come up with some solutions. Because as we know, every time we think that we kind of have it figured out a little bit with our kids and have a little bit of a rhythm, what do? Do they let us keep our rhythm? No. They want to throw a wrench right at it. It's just the nature of how it is. Yeah. So it's part of it. So de-escalating, taking time, and being that person that's willing to circle back, not just leaving your partner in the cold, not to talk about it anymore. Being willing to circle back. And working on not holding a grudge. So I think we're ready. So conflict ground rules. One of the exercises in the workbook that is really helpful for a lot of couples is to make your ground rules for your arguments. So maybe you agree that you're going to come back together after a certain amount of time and talk about it some more. Maybe you agree that maybe if one of you is a yeller, they're going to just say, you know what, I'm just committed to not yelling anymore, and will you be patient with me while I'm working on it, because I really want to have that be a ground rule for myself. You know, maybe one of you just kind of withholds themselves emotionally. What can I do to not withhold emotionally after an argument? So making those rules really helps. Like for my husband and I, we used to struggle for so many years. I mean, I really wish I could press rewind on certain things, but it doesn't work that way. I'm sure you have plenty of things that you wish you could get a do-over on. But when we were first married, I would just push and have to just tell him what I thought about something, thinking he would eventually agree with me if I said it enough different ways. And so he'd respond by yelling. He would just get to where he just had it up to here and was yelling at me. And I was just like, how can you yell at me? So finally, with our marriage coach, we learned to get out of this loop of just, he is, fed up with me and yelling at me, and I'm just like following him around the house, So to give each other a little space, for me to give him time to just reboot, that made him want to take a reboot on how he managed conflict, and he put more effort into not yelling, into verbalizing, I need to take a break, me to give him the break, and to realize he can have a different opinion than me. Who would have thought it? So that's that perspective thing we're talking about. Maybe there's another one besides the one in my head. So it's really helpful to lay those ground rules to start to move forward. And if you mess up and do the thing that you're trying to stop doing, have grace on yourself. Tomorrow will be a new day. So attachment in couples. Have you guys talked about attachment in here at all? The different forms of attachment? So we talk about them for our kids, and yet we don't always think about it for ourselves. Have you guys addressed it as parents in this topic? So that is so good. This really helped me when I went to Empower to Connect. I don't know if anyone in this group has taken that. Yeah, I mean, once they got into that attachment part, I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is partly about me. Wow. So it's really important to realize that it is extremely common that you will connect with somebody that has a different attachment style than you do. So it's going to be less likely if you have secure attachment, but if you have one of the unhealthy forms of attachment, it is very likely that you're going to pick somebody with a different style, which will drive you both crazy. Because you're going to have one that's like a little more anxious and needs attention and needs to process it and is a little more needy feeling, and the other is going to be avoidant and push back, shut down, push away. So, I mean, do the math on that. That just sounds like a recipe for disaster. So this is where we're growing, we're learning, we're healing. But to have that awareness that we often will partner with a different unhealthy type, it is very important to think about. So I know we're all growing and moving towards secure attachment, but we don't get there in one day. Just because we want to be it doesn't mean we are it. So it's taken me a long time. I mean, I'm 49 and I feel like I haven't been here that long to secure out of my lifespan, So I sure wasn't when I picked my husband at age 20. So you know how that goes. Who here has been married more than 20 years? So you guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I'm not alone on this. Yes. I think we'll go to the next one. So mental health concerns are also something I like to bring up. If one or both of you has mental health concerns, if you are dealing with anxiety, depression, different mania, different conditions that are a mental health condition, it's really something to address for the good of the family, for your couplehood, for you as a parent. It definitely is something that is well worth managing, to get the support that you need, to get the medical care, the therapeutic care that you need, the spiritual care that you need, so that you are ready to be a strong partner. And so that you're also, if you're on the flip side of this, ready to be a supportive partner as the other person is healing. So it's good to just kind of think about where you are and all of that, if one is struggling in this area or if you both are. So what can you do on your side of the court to grow as a partner? So we all tend to have plenty of ideas about what side of the court. His side, her side, not my side, right? If you think about what could change in our relationship, who do you think of first, yourself or your partner? Right, exactly, right. We've got plenty of ideas on that. So it's like, you got a pen, I can make a list. But what can happen on your side of the court? Because we only control our own side of the court. So as much as we'd like this or that to change, all we really can change is ourselves. And if we start to change, a lot of times that rubs off and inspires the other person to make some changes, which is pretty cool. And so it can just be hard to start getting that momentum if you are feeling like really discouraged in your relationship. So for those of you that have been married a long time, like I have, you're going to be discouraged sometimes. You know, I've always found it kind of amazing that I can love my husband as much as I do in some days, and others I'm just like, seriously? Again? We're going to do this again today? And he's the same guy. So I know it goes back at me too. I'm not perfect either. Surprise, surprise. 2 imperfect people are married. So we think about our side of the court. What can we do to be a stronger partner and to grow and be a support to our partner? So when this is the course, this is for the workbook, and then we do the reflection part of the workbook. So we'll go on to the next module. All right, guys. Are you ready to dive back in? Module 2, coming at you. Here we go. We're going to talk about creating a framework. And this time I need you to play along with me, okay? And let me just give you the groundwork for this. If I ask you for an answer like this, you can make up whatever you want. It does not have to be personal to you, okay? The more creative, the better, because laughter is encouraged, okay? All right, so this is about creating a framework. So in your lovely little workbook here, you're going to have some exercises that correlate with this so that you can make your own framework and seriously do it. For now, we're just going to kind of play around and learn about how it works, okay? Does that sound good? Everybody ready to play a little bit? Sure. You'll play along. You guys are foster and adoptive parents. You've done plenty of playing. Okay. So we're working on the parenting intention. So the parenting intention layers up to make the one-page family vision. So we're going to talk about our intentions a little bit. So where do we overlap? How do we respect differences? You both come from a totally different background. You were not raised in the same family because they call that generally brother and sister. So you come from different families. You very well may come from different places. You may have been raised in radically different ways. There are so many possibilities for difference. It's really amazing that you agree on anything at all. So, but you do. You fell in love. There are things that you do overlap on where you thought, hey, that's pretty cool. We agree on a lot of things. This is fun. How many of you didn't talk anything about parenting before you got married? Anybody? Yep. That's a real popular thing. And then it's like, surprise. Yeah, yeah. So we're also going to work on respecting differences because we both come into this from a different place. We have different experiences during the day. We're growing in different ways. We read different materials. We're around different people. We're growing. We're changing. And so how do we keep that overlap strong and respect the places that are differences? So let's dropping the judgment. Yeah. Have you noticed how much we like to judge, but you can't ever find anyone that wants to be judged? Isn't that weird? And so it's pretty fantastic that we are not obligated to judge. And in fact, did God appoint us as judges over our husband or wife? No, what a relief. It sounds like a terrible job. So, if you're doing that job, you get to quit. You don't have to do it. So that's the good news. So God takes care of his own thing in that department. He does not need you to do any judging. So that's cool. But it's hard to do because we do like to judge. We do form our opinions. We have our thoughts on how he or she should do this or that. It's human nature. So we'll go to the next. So how do we get there? So this is the overall plan of the course, the different modules of becoming a parenting team, working on the workbook, reflections, the parenting intention exercise, and then that one-page handout we're going to end in tonight. So if you have trouble doing that one page at the end, it's okay because there's a whole process to get there if you have trouble getting there, okay? So know that there is more scaffolding that you guys can build together. So if you do want to take the rest of the course and do it together, it works out really well. You can just download an app, listen to it for like 20 minutes in the car. All the modules are like 20 minutes. So you're going A to B together, pop it on, and bing. Because I know you guys are busy. So we'll go to the next. So sharing culture. So you may come from the same culture, maybe different cultures. For example, this family, the narrative I made up for them is that they do share the same culture. They do share in celebrating Kwanzaa, but they didn't come from the same background with celebrating. One of them did celebrate, the other one didn't. One's excited about it, one is barely on board. So sometimes you share in a culture like Christmas. Does anyone have differences in how they like to celebrate Christmas? Has anyone ever had a conflict over how Christmas is going to go? Yes. Yes, fake tree, real tree. Before you hardly even get it off the ground, here we go. Which kind of tree? So what's another Christmas conflict? How you open the gifts. Yes. And when you open the gifts. How many gifts? Yes. What about the food? Does anyone have a varied opinion about the food? Some it's like turkey, do or die. Some it's like roast beef, and that's it. Seafood. Did you say seafood? Yeah. You did. Yes. There we go. If you said seafood at my family growing up, they'd be like, I don't even know what planet you're on. We don't do that at Christmas. Here, I'd be all about it. Yeah. So there can be great differences in how we share our culture, how we celebrate our different holidays, how we celebrate those elements that make us us. Maybe if you're Italian, you like to do certain Italian things, right? Does anybody have like a strong cultural background from where they grew up that they like to celebrate? Is anyone from like another country that they like to celebrate? nobody. We're too far removed, right? It's harder to find, it used to be everyone was, closer to somebody that immigrated here. Now we keep getting further back.
We have cultural difference. She's from Europe, and Christmas Eve, they actually didn't, because they grew up under communism,
Oh,
didn't celebrate Christmas. But then when they started to, on Christmas Eve, there's nothing from an animal.
there's nothing
From an animal.
from an animal, yes.
Juices or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And there has to be odd
And
number
it's
of
done
people.
with 40 days fasting. And
So
the last
more-
day is the 23rd, actually, Christmas Eve, is the last day of fasting.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day is the midday.
Mm-hmm. So very spiritual, very much about sacrifice, which is so different than
Yeah.
all of the.
Going clean the house with incense,
Mm-hmm.
frankincense.
Wow. I feel like that's something I'd like to add. I mean, bless the house with frankincense. That sounds good. Yeah, so navigating that, a culture, coming from American culture that's all about like really being as gluttonous as you can on Christmas, it seems, to a culture that is really embracing the sacred and sacrifice and cleansing with it, with the incense and all of that. So that's a bridge, like both celebrating Christmas, but very different mindsets. So I love that you guys shared that. That's a perfect example of different cultures, but the same celebration, really, but in a different way. So modeling values. You probably share a lot of the same values. If you listed them off, you would probably say you agreed with quite a long list of values that you want to model. But it's interesting how we all tend to have certain values that go to the top of the list that we prioritize over others. So if you really value having your child do chores and your parenting partner, your spouse, they really value having the child in really intense athletics programs, it might be hard to have that all work together just because of the time. So sometimes you might think, well, this is a good idea to have my child helping around the house, but it might become impractical to do it on the level the other person thinks is appropriate if there's another competing priority. So yes, of course, you can find some time to dust, but maybe the child can't be as active in cleaning the home or doing work around the house if they're doing something else. They only have so much time during the day. So this is where sometimes we have different values that compete, or like one of you may really think that things need to be a certain way, like on a Sunday, needs to lay out that we're going to church at this time, we're relaxing, we're doing, we're not going to be running around a lot. The other may want to be go, go, go on a Sunday. So like, what do you value? What do you prioritize? So, and thinking about how you want to model them. So this is where you get to kind of have a broader vision for what you really want to do instead of just default mode. Like, what values do you both hold really dear? So if neither of you hold athletics dear and your child isn't into it, you're probably not going to do it. Even though it's a nice thing to do, you have to pick and choose certain things. So it's like, what is going to come to the top on what you're going to model with your values and how you're going to live your life. So spiritual beliefs and practices. So does anybody name a spiritual belief? Lent? Catholic? Yeah, Catholic and Lent. And let's say this nice Catholic girl that likes to go through the Lenten season, she marries, let's come up with something not Christian, anything not Christian. What's another religion or not religion? Buddhist. She marries a Buddhist. What are we going to do now? We've got a Catholic and a Buddhist here, and we've got the kids.
And they get married in the Catholic Church.
They had to get married at the courthouse. So, but this happens, right? I mean, we hear of people that are married that are of different faiths, or maybe one is of a faith and the other is just irreligious, not religious. So what do you do with that? You might have a Christian couple. They got together, they dated, they were on, christianmingle.com, and they found each other. And, both families were so happy they brought home a Christian, but let's name two very different Christian denominations. So what's the denomination here? Do we know? Non-denominational. We've got non-denominational, and then a very different Christian, Lutheran. So we've got non-denominational and Lutheran. So Lutheran has a lot more structure around how they practice the faith than non-denominational, which are pretty easygoing, right? They're like, we love everybody. Just come in here and we'll do this. We'll worship together. The Lutherans are like, we have a plan. We love you all, but we have a plan. So, so it's a matter of like, where are you going to take your kids on Sunday? You both love God. You both are Christian, but are you going to the Lutheran church? Are you going non-denominational? Like, how do you work this out? So this is part of what we're talking about on how you work through these things that can be just kind of nagging arguments otherwise, where if you don't resolve it, it can just pop up and pop up and pop up. And that's where it gets exhausting. So goals for our family, thinking about what are your biggest goals for your kids? What is exciting? Now, this is where you can get some real fire in your belly for being excited about your family. This is where you can create together, because you may have different goals, but you can come up with a few goals that you both really are excited about together. So for probably most of you in the room, you got excited about having a family goal of fostering. That was a huge undertaking. That took a lot of agreement to decide that you were going to foster and that was going to be one of your goals. And has that impacted your families? Yeah. Seismically, right? Yeah. So it's very powerful. And building connection. This is a fun way to grow into, to think about ways that you can connect with your kids and each other. That's fun to brainstorm. So we're going to brainstorm a handful of things that are fun ways to build connection. It can be crazy if you want it to be, or it can be practical if you want it to be. A little bit crazy is kind of fun, though. Does anybody have a fun thing they like to do to build connection with their kids, their spouse, their family? Escape room? Yes. That is so good. Yes. Or just close the door. Bye. We'll see you in a couple hours. That's great. Yes, I love it. What else do we have? What else is a fun way to connect?
Go to state parks, take walks.
Yes. Go to state parks, have an adventure for the afternoon, right? For the day or whatever. It's great to get out there and see new things, see the beauty. Yes. Kids love those adventures. What else do we have? What's something fun to do to connect?
So this is kind of ordinary, but you have at dinner the question of the day.
Oh yeah, question of the day.
My look, because I have toddlers and bigger kids too. The little kids absolutely love it. My
Oh.
is constantly, okay, what's the question of the day?
Oh, that's so great. Then you have conversation with it all, with everyone. Everyone.
What was the funniest thing that happened today to you, or what is something you want to do when we go camping next week?
Yeah. If you did. That'd be another way to connect if you wanted to, if you really wanted to get crazy, which I don't want to get crazy going camping. What else do we have that's a fun way to connect? What would be something just kind of wild and crazy you could do around the house that would just make everyone smile? Pillow fights, foam wars. Yeah. War games with soft things. That's cool. Yeah. Very connecting. Everybody's running, playing, having fun. Yeah. That's right. And you're tiring them out before bed. That's pretty good. What else do we have? Has anyone ever had a dance party at their house? Just put on music and dance? Oh, yeah. We've got some dancing in the back there. That's great. One more thing. What's something you may or may not have even done that you can think of that would be connecting?
My boys sometimes sit and cook with my husband. I actually love watching. But,
So good. Cooking together. Yes.
you know, it's not always easy.
Yeah.
A little more often with me than him, and so when he starts cooking something, they're right there helping and talking.
Yes. Cooking is very connecting. Yeah. Yeah. And you can make whatever you want, right? Do you enjoy it? Yeah. It makes it fun. What's like the most delicious thing you've made recently?
We've got strawberry salad, that's really
Ooh,
pretzels for a strawberry salad.
that sounds delicious. Very fun. Yeah, and kids, they love it. They love the food. So, setting boundaries. Has anyone ever argued about setting boundaries? Nobody? Raise your hand if you've ever had one argument about where the boundary line should be with your kids. Yeah, I'll raise them both. Yeah, with 3 kids, there have been plenty of arguments about where the fence posts go. And we both have our own ideas. And really, at the end of the day, now that I look back and we're pretty well wrapped up with this whole thing of having kids at home, if the fence post was a little right or left to a small degree, the kind of degree that we were arguing about, it wouldn't have mattered. We would have been much better off having some bend than arguing to the nth degree about certain things that they can or can't do. The arguing was much more destructive than the extra cookie or going to bed 30 minutes later. So if I had it to do over, I wouldn't have even put the energy into all of that back and forth about simple things. So setting boundaries, the more that you can set boundaries together proactively, then you know where you're coming from, you agree on the big rocks, and the kids are more clear on what's expected from them. So it helps keep everybody a little happier. Though the kids are going to keep pushing on those fence posts, it is important to keep making sure we come back to making sure we're on the same page, because the rules change. They grow, they develop. We have to widen the pasture again and again, right? Until finally we let the horses out. Oh my gosh. So, yeah. So your discipline plan, making a discipline plan together. I'm sure that you guys have talked through this in your foster training and adoption training, making a discipline plan. So we're not going to get too deep into this because I know that this drum has gone again and again. But if you need that reminder to freshen up your discipline plan, here it is. And then what is your plan to resolve conflict? So conflicts are going to pop up. It's just how life is. But what's going to happen when it's time to resolve them? How do you resolve them? So making a plan, writing it down on your workbook is a really great exercise to have a plan on how you're going to move forward. Maybe you have another couple that you really trust in your life, or a pastor, your parents, aunt and uncle, somebody that you can bring in if it's like really a big deal and it's not just about bedtime or how many brownies Billy can have. It's like you really need some insight because you're not so sure. It can be really great to say, hey, we agree that we're going to, call the Smiths or, Pastor John over to help us if we really get stuck on something. Has anybody done that? Brought in like trusted mentor, pastor, friends, parents on big decisions when you felt a little stuck? Yeah, getting some nods. I know my husband and I have many times. It's hard making all these decisions for other people, right? It's such a responsibility, and we want to do it well. And when we feel really torn, sometimes it helps to have somebody else to help us process it out and make a good decision. So the family vision statement, I'm going to pass this out. You can have either one per person or one per couple. If you each want your own, it's okay. You need some toward the back. Did you guys use your stack? Got some more coming. So this is your one-page family vision. And this is what you can work on as a couple or as an individual to just bump up kind of your vision for your home. So I was trying to find my trusty example here. Oh, I don't have, it might be in a slide here coming up, I think. There's an example one. So you're going to put your family name at the very top in that top white blank above our family vision. And then your vision statement goes below it in that blank by the hearts. And then you put your top beliefs, goals, and commitments. And then you can come up with a family motto. A lot of times families might like to make this kind of happy and fun, your motto. So what's next? So if you end up feeling stuck in this process, maybe you've gotten the workbook, you've done the exercises, and you just feel stuck. That's where you can give me a call. I'm a parenting coach, and I'm more than happy to meet with you, and we can work through it together. You also might just want to contact, if you've been working with a therapist in the past or working with a pastor in the past where you've had support and working on your marriage. That person can be a really great resource to work through this material with if you're just getting stuck. And acknowledge small changes and parenting wins. Sometimes when we're trying to make changes, we forget how important the little things are. So usually we make changes little by little by little rather than making just sweeping changes overnight. We grow, we change bit by bit. So giving each other credit for small changes, trying to notice when your husband or wife is trying to be a stronger partner, be a stronger parent, trying to acknowledge that. And being patient with one another, because I don't know about you, but I find that change can be really hard. And I haven't met anyone that thinks that change isn't hard. So I'm figuring you guys aren't the first, right? Change is pretty well hard. So it takes time and patience. So having a perfect family is not the goal because it's unattainable, right? Working as a team to face challenges builds a resilient and connected family. We're in this messy life together. As foster and adoptive parents, we have more than our fair share of messy moments, and we're in it together. We're building resilience. I am sure all of you are more resilient than you were before you became a parent. It just goes with the territory. We grow, we become more resilient. We have to develop over time. So you're doing it now and working even to strengthen your connection and your communication as a team will help grow that even more. Okay, guys, we're gonna jump back in here and hit module 3 and bring this plane in for a landing tonight, okay? You're just, not so far away from getting back to your couch. If some of you have a long drive, maybe it's a little more. Who thinks maybe they drove one of the farther distances tonight? How long of a drive do you have?
About 35 minutes.
35 minutes. You'll be to the couch in no time. All right, guys. We're going to rock our family identity now. We've talked about the different elements that go into agreement, and we're going to work on rocking our family identity all the more than we ever have before. We're going to rock it happily. Some days, right? There are no guarantees. We all know that there are the ups and downs, but we want to rock that identity as a family, knowing that we have our good days and our bad days and the in-between. So acknowledging that our relationship comes first. For those that are married, your relationship comes first. I had a mom during the break ask me if my main focus as a parent coach is working with parents on their relationship with one another. And I was sharing with her that it's actually not my main focus. My main focus is parent to child, but I ended up making this course because how mom and dad are greatly affects parent to child. You are all a whole family. So I have a very holistic approach. So that's how I got down this road. So your relationship definitely matters. So in relationships, there's deposits and withdrawals. So can anyone think of something that would be like if your relationship were like a bank account or like a empty vessel ready to be filled up, what would be a deposit for the relationship? Date night. Really great deposit.
I don't get it,
But it would be fun, right? Sounds good. I told you could be creative, right? What else would be a deposit in your relationship? Emptying the dishwasher, yes. That's a really good one. Yes. More deposit ideas. Foot rub. Now we're talking. Yeah, we've gone next level over here. This is a good one. I love it. What else do we have that's a deposit? Time away. Yes, time alone to be together, to connect. Like a weekend or a trip or something. Yeah, so good. What else is a deposit you could make? One more deposit. No one can think of anything? Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's a good one. All right, so what's a possible withdrawal? What does a withdrawal look like? doing laundry for everybody in the house. Well, so the withdrawal would be that you don't help with laundry, right? The withdrawal is that somebody doesn't help you. Yep.
So then they can't go to the skate park.
Yep. Sorry. So what else would be something that would take away from the relationship? Maybe having a snappy tone. Maybe just sitting down and not... Yes, watching you mop the floor. Yeah, and it's the third chore that you've done it. Yeah. What would also be a withdrawal kind of a behavior? Silent treatment, yes. Yes. Shutting down, pulling back. I do like to mention a withdrawal can be withholding sex. It's important to be able to connect, and that's a very popular withdrawal that we don't always want to talk about because it's a little uncomfy, but it's a withdrawal. So withdrawals and deposits. You want to be somebody making as many deposits as you can because we end up making withdrawals sometimes when we don't mean to. Sometimes we just don't see it. Sometimes we're just in a selfish mood or whatever it may be. We're not always on point. So you want to be making as many deposits as you can to keep that person's heart full. Because really it's not a bank account or a vessel, it's your partner's heart. So you want to be filling that up as best you can. So are there a lot of demands for your time? Yes. Are the kids and the chores and the work and all the things at you? Yes. We still got to find a way to make those deposits because we need it. So you can leave love notes for each other or for your kids. I love this phrasing, I feel because. So when you empty the dishwasher, I feel really supported because I'm really tired and it makes me feel loved. So you're telling them really what it is, why you like it, how it makes you feel. And so, which goes a lot deeper than just, thanks for unloading the dishwasher. It lets them really realize why it's a big deal to you. And then maybe they'd want to do it again. Because what we give more attention to, we tend to see more of with behavior. So the more you can notice your spouse doing things that are good, the more they will generally do them, just like with our kids. We've learned that about our kids. And guess what? It applies to us too. We're all the same. We do more of what we kind of get stroked for, the pat on the back. We notice, oh, they liked that and it feels good and you want to do it again. So when they do the dishwasher and you don't say anything, and they think, oh, she doesn't even notice, she doesn't care. So try to make a big deal out of the things that you like seeing happen. And so part of rocking your family identity is playing together. I know some of you guys have a wide range of kids from little bitties to adults. Now playing together, that might look really different depending on which kid you're around, but playing, being playful as a family, finding things that you can do that are fun. Because if your family time is not ever playful, it's just going to be really an energy drain, right? We need those doses of fun to get through all that monotony and all those things all those hurdles we have to jump during the week. We need that infusion of play and fun to keep everybody a little more up and connected and enjoying life together. And we heal together because sometimes life is super hard. Sometimes things are really painful. We're grieving. We're struggling with different diagnoses in this room, different health conditions. Life is hard. So we also heal together, being there emotionally for one another and pressing in those hard times. And forgiving. Sometimes forgiving can be very challenging, and especially if we are not able to forgive people under our own roof, it really can literally make us sick. There are lots of studies that show that our bodies and our psyches do not do well when we walk in unforgiveness. It's like we just can't take it. So thinking about, is there somebody that you kind of need to forgive in your household? Did somebody really wrong you or hurt you? Are you holding your heart back? Where do you need to forgive? It can be so helpful just to get with God, get with a notebook, just write it all down and ask for God to help you to forgive that person and to be able to ask for wisdom to walk forward in that healing. It's a lot easier said than done sometimes. And it's okay to get a trusted friend, pastor, your spouse to help you walk through it if you're having a hard time letting go. So, and being kind to ourselves. This is something that I also wish that I would have known much earlier in my parenting. Being kind to ourselves is an antidote for perfectionism. Self-compassion actually helps us heal that part of us that wants to be perfectionistic. So we can model this for our kids. We can model it for one another. We can change our self-talk. But instead of when you screw something up, instead of just berating yourself in your head or trying to control things tighter and tighter and tighter, starting to say, hey, it's okay, we all make mistakes. Telling your spouse, hey, they might say, I blew it, I'm sorry. I know, everybody makes mistakes. We all make mistakes. We can try again. And having that compassion on ourselves to realize we don't have to be perfect, we're not going to be perfect, and helping our kids to understand that too. Because they're always working to try to meet our expectations. They're trying to meet expectations at school, their own expectations at home. And if we can show them in our relationship with one another, our relationship with ourselves, that self-compassion is important. Self-compassion is an important tool because it's something that we actively do. It's not just kind of a vague thought. It's something you have to kind of do in your own mind and heart, rather than that harsh critic within. It actually will just help your brain and body start to relax if you can talk kindly to yourself. And it works for those around us too. So anybody struggle with perfectionism like I do? Sure, a few. Yeah. I've noticed that when I get really obsessive about cleaning the house, I need to reassess. That's a good description. It's a whole mode. Yes, and it's definitely time to reassess. Yes. So, yes. And I love this Japanese proverb, fall 7 times and stand up 8. We're all working and growing, and as long as we're trying, we're moving further down that road. And being present. This week I was really thinking about being present in my new Zumba class. Has anybody gone to Zumba before?
Best thing ever.
Do this if you've been to Zumba. All right. So has anyone played basketball before? Give me a alley-oop. Is this the alley-oop? Or this? I don't know. When you're doing Zumba or you're in a basketball game, something kind of high-paced, what happens if you start to zone out and think about something else? Yes. You're going to end up with a basketball in your face. You're going to end up tripping all over your Zumba steps. I mean, I started to think about this at Zumba because my mind started to wander, and I couldn't do it. I mean, I only have done it for 3 weeks. Let me tell you. I mean, I'm barely doing it to begin with. But I really wasn't doing it. Once my mind wandered, I was like, I don't even know. I don't know where I am here. So it made me think about this whole thing about being at the present moment. As if we are not in the moment with our kids, with our spouse, if our mind is somewhere else, we do start tripping. The ball hits us in the face, just like in a game or in a dance class, something that is moving along. If we're not truly there, we usually start to fall, to not do well. And, I love the way that Jesus is always calling us to the present and not having us in worry back here, not having us in anxiety out here in front of us. It's in the present. And so the more we can try to seek to be in that moment, the less we'll be tripping all over ourselves and snapping because, our mind is somewhere else. Have you noticed how, like me, when you're on the phone and you're just looking at your phone and you start having a conversation with your child or your spouse and you're half there and you're half not, how easy it is to feel really annoyed on both ends. Both people end up annoyed in that scenario. So thinking about how you can be present. I love this picture of the families just having a moment, having some music. So idealistic in the picture. But we can be in the present no matter what we're doing. It's possible. It's something to work on, but no matter the situation, the door is always open to be present in that moment. And we dream together. It's really fun to dream with your kids. Have you noticed that? They're just so free to think of ideas. They don't have to put a lot of logic or thought behind it. They don't have to come up with financial backing. If they want to, build something, they can. Sky's the limit in their mind. If they want to be, whatever profession, they can be it when they're just dreaming and thinking about it. But it's fun to just dream together. Because you never know which of your kids' dreams are going to come true, or which of your spouse's dreams are going to come true, or yours. God plants dreams in our hearts all the time. So take that time to kind of dream and think about what could be more and beyond, and what maybe God is speaking to you. This is our little practice example. So actually, I think we'll end with this slide. And if you could just leave this up, please. And if any of you guys just want to look at it, after we've wrapped up here, I know it's probably hard to see from where you're sitting for a lot of you. It's just a good example of what it could be like to kind of help you brainstorm. So I was so glad to be here tonight, and I thank you for listening and being here. And feel free to reach out to me if you would like to get the course.